Yes.
Who you are.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's almost 2:30, so we'll go ahead and convene the regular meeting today on August the 9th of the City of Trinidad Historic Preservation Commission. Thank you all for coming. And let's go ahead and start with roll call, please. Chris?
Kelly?
Here.
Thomas?
Here.
Shirley?
Here.
I'm going to go ahead and say Carlos.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to number 2, our public comments section. So I think we have reserved about 15 minutes for this, and if Ken and or Margie want to talk a little bit about this Crossroads project, we'd love to hear from you now.
Can we do it?
Yeah, mister.
Is this where I stand, or how do you want me to
I
do
think
this?
that's the place.
Hi, my name.
You should just talk into this. Yes. I think we can hear you fine.
Can you hear me fine?
Yes.
All right. Hi, my name is Ken Chapin. I am working with Margie in the Creative District on the traveling Smithsonian exhibit called Crossroads Change in Rural America. There's the flyer for it. In addition to, it's a real opportunity to have this exhibit coming through town, and our aim is to make the most of it. In addition to the Smithsonian exhibit proper, which is about 850 square foot exhibit that comes in crates that we install, we're also encouraged to create what they describe as a companion exhibit. And so the start of our companion exhibit is going to be installed and will run concurrently between December 9th and January 13th at the Commons, in the same space as this is the Smithsonian show itself. And to date, we have nearly either 12 or 13 companion satellite exhibits that are going to be hosted and or curated in empty storefronts, empty buildings, A.R. Mitchell Museum, Skate Land. There's a bunch of them. Main Street. I mean, the list keeps growing. Maybe Tarantula Cycles as of this morning. But the sort of the theme for this growing juggernaut is the idea through the Smithsonian is to take a look at our community through the lens of then and now. And so we're going to be applying that lens across a number of domains that to this date might include transportation or agriculture or different subject matter areas that are of great importance to the community. And the reason that we're here today, we had a chance to speak with Elizabeth about some budding ideas. But one of the subject areas that we want to explore and celebrate is our built environment, and how do we work with you all around highlighting the built environment, since that's what you do, and beyond that, the sky is the limit on what it is this looks like. I can tell you that. Like with the skating rink, I just talked to Jamie and said, hey, what happens if we have skating in one hand and Smithsonian in the other, and we mash them together? What can we get out of that? And as a result of that, we've got 5 sort of individual elements that will emanate from the skating rink and align with the Smithsonian. And so we're replicating that model with different organizations and community groups, and I think that finding a way to work with you all on that sounds like a really exciting proposition.
Yeah, and this has already taken place in Walsenburg, or tell me what...
Yeah, so this show is traveling the country, and there are 10 host sites in the state of Colorado. Walsenburg is one of them. There are a few down in southern Colorado. But each one of them is a self-contained event. Because one of the things, part of the homework and the programming component that we inherited as a result of agreeing to host this exhibit is that through some of the programming, we're actually collecting the stories of people whose lives have unfolded in this part of the state. And that data is getting fed back up into the Smithsonian so that they can start to paint a picture of what changing life in rural America looks like. And so each host site has the same sort of parameters and opportunities to do what they want to do, but they're collecting stories specifically from their area, and they open in August and we open in December. So it isn't designed to collaborate across municipalities like that. However, we're fully aware that, and I think that I had shared this with you, Elizabeth, in one of our phone calls, is that we're taking the broad approach to, because of our media partners and the distribution agreements that we have for our marketing materials, that we'll actually be marketing to Huerfano, Los Animas, and Colfax counties, because the ties that people have who live in our community to people, like people have family in Raton, and so we can't really be rigid around our geographic boundaries, but I think that we won't really have an accurate picture of what our geographic reach was until after it's over, because that will be determined by the family ties that exist in the community. So we're not trying to, market to Walsenburg, but we also don't want to disinvite people who have relationships and histories of their own right here in Trinidad and Los Angeles County.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so I, haven't talked to Ken, but wanted to invite him here to get a full body conversation about, how we might interact with this project, how the Historic Preservation Commission and the City of Trinidad is working to support this crossroads. It took me a little while to kind of get my head around it. I wasn't like, what is this project, and how does this work? But it's obviously, sponsored or associated with the Smithsonian, and this is something that they do around the country. And I don't know if there's anything else that you want to say about that, or if you have any basic questions at this point.
Can I just get an idea of what you're doing with the Smithsonian and the skating rink? Like you said, you were going to mash it up. Can I?
Yeah. So the way I try to describe this is that the Smithsonian obviously is a huge brand, and it's coming into our town. And the way I've been describing the relationship between the Smithsonian as an entity and the partners that we're establishing here in town is that in the under-ocean world, there are sharks. And I don't know if you've ever seen the little fish that sticks to the side of the shark. It's called a remora. And those two have a mutually beneficial relationship. And so we're using that understanding with the Smithsonian as the shark and each of our exhibition partners as a school of remora. I think is the plural. I still haven't confirmed that yet. Yeah, please do check me on that. We'll just say remora for the time being. And so looking at our community through the lens of then and now, specifically the skating rink. The skating rink is an 81-year-old business and building that has never been anything other than that. And the people who started that business we have all of those archives, and it has had a role in our community for 81 years now. It was started by a woman, it is run by a woman today, and the role that it plays in our community for people of all ages, and particularly, it's been around for 81 years, so it's really touched the lives of a lot of people. And it is an interesting and unique way to take a look at our community through the people whose lives have been touched by that skating rink throughout history and today. And so the sort of the thing that is growing up around Skateland is that somebody on our team said, hey, wouldn't it be interesting to take a look at our community through the lens of the hairstyles that people have worn over the last 100 years? And I said, yeah, sure, I worked in a hair salon, we can make that happen. And so after just one conversation with Jamie, we're now at the point where we'll have between 10 and 20 young skaters whose hair and outfits will be reflective of different points of time, depending upon the hairstyles that people can do. And we're gonna have a hair fashion runway show on skates at the skating rink, while also within the context of a photographic archival exhibit of the people and the imagery that has sort of sprung from Skateland's existence since it was born. Like, what is the name of it's one of Eli's really good friends that was a skater who passed. But there's like people who really had a place in our community and are rather iconic roles that Bronco Billy, that was his name. Like we have those little gems of stories that we want to tell. In addition to Skateland every year does a skate guard reunion, and she's going to do the skate guard reunion during this Smithsonian run, which is going to bring people of all ages coming back to that. So that's in a nutshell what Skateland looks like right now and why. And what we want to do is, there are a lot of looking back through then and nows that have been done, and I think they're all great examples of looking into our history and celebrating the best of who we are, pointing to how it is that we became who we are. But we really want to do things that are unexpected, that people haven't seen before. And so, mashing Smithsonian and skates together is an example of how we've come to that.
And there's going to be like multiple events at this? Like
5 weeks. So we have 5 weeks. So the Smithsonian is here through December 9 to January 13, which is a 5-week run. And so all of these satellite exhibits are going to run concurrently with that. And we're in the process of scheduling what exactly is going to go where in the calendar. But the guide that we're producing is a 5-week travel guide around Trinidad, where we'll be programming different things happening for each week that'll be presented in this guide. And at this point, we've got distribution partners for putting out 10,000 copies of that guide directly into people's hands. So it's another Shark and Remora.
So, if I can interrupt, so the collaborations go through Mitchell, through Main Street Live, and each venue is going to have their own, we're not reinventing the wheel, correct?
Yeah.
So it's already what they're doing, but somehow tying it in with Smithsonian so that we're collaborating with all of Trinidad, and all of Trinidad will be infused with this Smithsonian, not just Creative District, not just, we feel like it's really important to include all our counterparts and make it one big, huge entity of fun.
Thank you, and I think that's a really good segue into sort of how do we connect with
Right,
that
was gonna
Historic
be my
Preservation Commission, and this idea that we don't want to recreate the will. So we've done this Echoes of History event 2 years now. It's been an annual event, and one thought, and we haven't discussed this is completely open for any thoughts that the commission has about it, would be to sort of weave that idea into Crossroads so that we're fulfilling our certified local government requirement to do outreach in the community, right? Which is what we've done with our Echoes events
Are you talking
previously.
about instead of doing it in May?
Yes, but again, this is just something, you know, it doesn't have to, we could decide and talk about this more, but one of the things would be, so we have these resources, we have this wonderful survey. I think it's our 2021 survey that the consultants did for the city of Trinidad that's got loads and loads of information about all the, many of the historic residences and other properties in our community. So one thought would be, and it could be both, Shirley, you know, we wouldn't have to do either or. One thought would be is we could look at that survey and take maybe just 2, 3, 4 of those residences or properties, this is just sort of evolving, and do an open house in each of them during that 5-week period. We'd have to work with the property owner, obviously. It would just be a reception where people could maybe come in and do a tour, so that we really are reaching out, bringing people into those built environment, the historic buildings that are part of our community. And we have this information already, we just haven't used it.
I
So,
think that's a great idea, Elizabeth.
so that's just a thought, and you've not heard it before, so we'll have to talk about it.
Can I add to that?
Please.
So I looked at that survey. I'm a highly visual person, and my eyes went directly both to the images but also to the map. And I thought, the first thing I'd reach back out to you, I mean, because that's a long survey. And I said, is this interactive? Like, this map already exists. So one of the things that, there are 2 things that are sort of guiding constraints for this is, how do we grow bigger without weighing more, and how do we feed 2 birds with 1 seed, right? Idea being, like, what is it that you're already doing, in part or in total, that we could integrate into the Smithsonian envelope, let's say, or umbrella, that makes the totality of the experience richer, but brings forward the work that you're already doing in with what it is that you already do that could get rescheduled, or some slice of what it is that you already do that could be repeated or like I said, the sky's the limit on the how, and I don't know the answer to that, but I think there's countless ways that we could find to do this.
So I think the idea in asking Ken and Margie to come today was just to sort of give an overview of what Crossroads is, what our role could be, depending on what everybody's preferences are, and any other questions for Ken.
Yeah, but the exhibit is Crossroads, but what is it? I mean, is it pictures, is it?
The actual Smithsonian?
Yeah, the
So-
actual exhibit, what, is it photographs? Is it?
It's photographs, it's it's designed by the Smithsonian Traveling and Exhibition team, so I'm operating as though it's great.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
It's
probably got everything.
Yeah.
Well, they're
I
actually
just didn't
really
know if
large
it's artifacts
panels.
or
They're
what.
really, really large panels.
Uh-huh.
And some are just photographs, some are very interactive, and they prompt questions to make, so it's kind of a little maze that's put together in the installation, and people can meander through it, reading the panels, interacting with them if they're prompted, those type of things. But it's the side of exhibitions that Ken's truly working on.
Yeah, we haven't seen the Smithsonian exhibit yet. We've only been talked to about it and given pieces of paper that describe how many crates and what size and how long and all that sort of stuff. So we have our install team for the Smithsonian component is already built. And is it the 23rd?
August
so-
23rd at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, so our team will be going up to Museum of Friends and shadowing them while they're installing their exhibit. That's what they do, they sort of piggyback that way, so that whoever it is that's closest to you and right before, we go get to sort of see the answers to the test before we take it. And yeah, so that's the, in terms of certainty around the Smithsonian, I trust that it's a high quality exhibit. It's our partner in that is Colorado Humanities. They're our go-between between the Creative District, myself, and the Smithsonian. And I think that that's going to be highly educational. They send you all kinds of suggestions on readings and movies and all that kind of stuff that you might want to share with the community. Education guides for different reading levels. I mean, they give you all kinds of stuff, and while that's great, we're tweaking it. There are some things that are seem directly related to this, and then there are other opportunities that are presenting themselves that might feel like a stretch. And I'll give you an example of one of those, is that we went through that entire list of suggested readings and movies because we were thinking, we'll just do a Saturday matinee at the Commons, and that'll be a lead up. And so we were checking are these recommended films actually available to us? Some of them you can't find, some you have to own, some you have to rent, and not all of them sort of fit into the spirit of this. There's some shoot 'em up, bang bang, cowboy Indian things that I'm not sure that adds to the feel of what we're together, not separate in this whole thing. So I did a little bit of outreach, and we're now working with the library, because the library and the bookstore do not have a dedicated local authors section. So, and what does this have to do with Smithsonian? I can't answer that question. It's just an opportunity that reared its head. And so now we're working with the library both to create those local author sections in both the library and the bookstore. And on Fridays, local authors can fill out a couple pieces of paperwork and bring a copy of their book, and the library will purchase it and make it available to people in the community that have a library card. And we're encouraging the authors to donate a copy that we can put in the local authors section of the bookstore, so that people who are coming through town who can't access to the library can actually buy a copy from the bookstore, and we know the relationship between those two entities. So it's those sort of opportunities that are in the periphery where you go, yeah, let's do that. How hard is it? And so, they're on board, and it's starting to happen.
It's another connection. Steve?
Yeah.
Chris, any questions?
I like the idea a lot. I think I love where you're heading on this, and really, as far as the city goes, I think we're really interested in these opportunities to collaborate on things. So I love that we're tying in, different programs together to make it more of a robust event.
Thank you so much for coming and explaining this 5-week extravaganza. What did you use?
I called it a
juggernaut.
juggernaut. That's just because.
How can I put juggernaut in a sentence?
Yeah.
Well, amount of planning.
Yeah, so that's how you can do it. You go, oh, look at Ken. There's smoke coming out of his ears. Oh, it's that juggernaut that's stuck in there. That's how you can describe
I
it.
bet.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sounds
All
like
right.
it's growing and growing and
For future
Just the
reference.
We've been at this 4 weeks now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in 4 weeks it went to you get a Smithsonian in a crate to, by the time it's done, we could have 20 or 30 things happening in the community that are tying into this in that 5-year period. And we haven't even gotten to the field trip part yet, because, I'm also part of the duo that put Goodnight Moon, thanks to Margie at the Commons. And in 17 days, we had over 700 students from Levita, Raton, and everywhere in this town. And so we're going to sort of build on and replicate the success of that model and try and get it, maybe 1,500 students in 7 days.
Definitely outside the box, as they say. Thank
That's
you
where
so
I
much.
reside. Thank you for
Appreciate it.
inviting me in from the cold and sharing what we have going on with Smithsonian.
And just mark your calendar dates, because our grand opening is December 9th.
Okay,
For
great.
for this exhibit?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you are gonna just be blown away, so make sure you bring a seatbelt. Tie
Yeah,
yourself down.
and just on that front,
Lots of metaphors here.
Yeah.
well, it says
This
a
guy's
lot
a
with fewer
storyteller.
words,
He
right?
tells stories and pictures,
Um,
word pictures.
Yeah, so it's sort of a two opening thing. The companion exhibits are gonna open up on First Friday. And those are all gonna open around town. And then on the 9th, during the day, is when the Smithsonian show will happen. And partially because we want all of the people who are part of Smithsonian to be able to go to the other exhibits on First Friday, but we also want all the First Friday people to be able to come to the opening on September 9th, and I need to be able to go to all of them, so it's important that we separate
And
them.
just split that juggernaut right down the middle.
Yeah, like a Gordian knot, right? So,
Thanks, Ken.
yeah, if anybody has any questions, Elizabeth has all my contact info, and I could spend an hour answering the smallest question you might have. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm sure we'll have some.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you,
Thanks, guys.
everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, let's keep moving. Number 3, approval of the minutes. We have both the April 12th, 2023 minutes, which I don't believe we have a quorum in order to approve, so we have to table those once again. And then I'll be asking for a motion for the July 12th, 2023 minutes. Is there a motion?
A motion to accept the July 12th minutes.
I second that.
I do have a couple of corrections, and I'll give this copy to you, Chris. They're mostly on the first page under roll call. I'm just referred to as interim chair. If we could just correct that, and then I think that was the only thing. So I think we need a motion to accept these amended minutes for July 12th.
A motion to accept the amended minutes for July 12th.
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Motion approved. Thank you all. Number 4, public hearings. We have no public hearings this afternoon, so we'll move on to items for discussion. We wanted to talk a bit about, I think, the meeting time for this commission, and I don't know who wants to lead or start this. I have a number of thoughts and, contributions, but maybe Chris, did you want to lead?
I wish I had some information to give you. I don't really have anything to add to that.
So,
Sure.
for all of our boards and commissions, we certainly allow the opportunity for the board or commission themselves to establish what they think is their best meeting time. And the hope is that you'll pick a time that works for all of you to be present. So I understand there is a concern with a new occupation from one of the current members and making this meeting time during the day. And so I think that's kind of what precipitated this. But certainly it's your purview to talk about when you'd like to meet, and if you want to make changes there, and staff is willing to accommodate whatever you all decide.
Well, I think there was also the consideration of Tom's availability to record the meetings. I mean, we definitely want to be, as flexible for all the persons concerned, to make it as transparent and accessible to all the stakeholders that we have. I just will throw out, I was kind of curious, so I did actually look. We've got the Main Street Board meets at 10 a.m. The LTAB Board meets, and I don't have the days of the month with these, just the day of in the particular day. So 10 a.m. for Main Street, LTAB is at 4 p.m. I'm not sure about Parks and Rec. We have Arts and Commission at 4 p.m. The tour board meets at 5:30. The library board meets at 4. Planning, zoning, and variance at 5:30. And then we had changed our meeting to 2:30 earlier this year. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out as far as the
I'm like, I
survey.
haven't heard anything about this, so this is new to me.
Yeah, and well, this is the time for us to talk about it and to see what, people want to do.
I prefer 5:30.
Do you?
Yeah. And when I asked when we switched, how did we switch? And I was told we voted, but nobody
But
voted.
we didn't vote, no.
So-
We didn't vote.
I know that
Isn't anybody-
I missed 2 meetings.
But we didn't vote.
Is it the
Apparently,
time
when-
change?
I didn't vote.
when it was decided, I missed the meeting, and then I missed the next meeting because I didn't know we had switched to 2:30. So, 5:30 is perfect for me, and I guess 5:30 is perfect for Tom.
What about you, Shirley?
Well, it's okay. I don't like that time in the winter, but then again, we did it all last winter, so I'm open.
And from what I hear, Carlos would like to still be here.
Oh, is he still part of our,
Yes.
oh,
He would still like to be
But he's
here,
already
but
missed
5:30.
5 meetings or something?
Well, city council didn't vote to take him off.
Yeah, city council's direction was we don't want to decide to remove Carlos until you all had a discussion perhaps about changing the time to accommodate his schedule. So they postponed that vote.
Do we have a stated preference on time from Carlos Madrid?
I don't know. Have you talked to him, Chris?
Not personally, I have not talked to Carlos. However, he said that it was a time constraint due to his new job,
Which is an 8 to 5.
an 8 to 5 job.
Uh-huh. Well, I'm not opposed to going back to 5:30 if that works for everybody. And did you say yes, Tom?
I mean, it's better.
That's better for you. Okay.
Any objection to that? I'm not sure that I was told that we didn't necessarily need a vote. Do you have any guidance on that, Steve?
I would put it as a motion and vote on
Okay.
it, just so we can reflect that in the minutes.
Okay, let's,
I motion to move the meeting back to 5:30.
I'll second that.
All right, Thomas,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Shirley,
I suppose, yes. I'm not thrilled about it, but I suppose.
and Carlos is not present. So sounds unanimous
The motion passes to change our meetings till 5:30,
5:30.
starting next month. Although, if I could just on that point, talk a little bit about, so in September, I'm actually gonna be out of town on our regular meeting, date. So I don't know if we wanna change the meeting, or if we're gonna, if Carlos is able to attend, then we would still have a quorum, so we could leave it on the regular date. Otherwise, there's an option of changing it to September the 6th, when I will be here. Any
I thought we had already done that. Didn't
Well, we
already
talked about it, but I
determine that?
wasn't sure if it had been agreed upon. So in September, our meeting date is September 13th. Or we could change it to the 6th, if there's no objection to that. What's your preference?
Would you like me to reach out and see if we'll have a quorum before we have the next meeting?
Sure, so we would just leave the 6th and the 13th kind of open and decide based on feedback from Carlos?
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Does that work for everybody?
Well, can you just reach out to him and ask him if we change the meeting to the 6th if he can come? That way we can have the meeting.
The 6th of next month?
September.
Yeah.
Sure thing.
That way, we can have at least us three here to have the meeting,
Yeah, I don't mind reaching out to Carlos and seeing if he can comply to this 6th meeting at 5:30.
Okay, so if you could just let us know as soon as you hear back from them, that would be super. So I think we're agreeing that we're not going to move forward with recommendation for to City Council for removal due to absences from meetings, but that we'll just go forward and try to accommodate as many people as we can at 5:30. So, alrighty. And number 6 is new business, and I think we have some feedback, on the status of applications for new commissioners. And then we're also going to talk about consideration of a retreat on October 18th, which I think that date is up for grabs, but let's start on new applications, if any.
I don't. Chris, do you have that information? Audra is out today. She had to go to a medical appointment with her father, I believe.
Yeah, and I think the status of the applications depends on city council's recommendations, and Audra would bring those forward. So we should have clarification by the next meeting.
So I think what we're saying is we just have one opening now,
Right.
correct?
Yeah.
So Jean Delicio's space. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it would be really great if we had a full complement of commissioners and before we did a retreat. We had talked about October 18th. That was just sort of a date on the calendar. I don't think we necessarily need to do it. And then we could wait until later, like the first week or so in November, to make sure that we have a full complement of folks. And we can talk more about this. I think there's just a number of things that we need to take some time to review. We haven't seen our video from Jeff from Picket Wire yet. We'd like to see that. We've talked before a little bit about doing a historic preservation plan, yes or no, does that make sense? A budget. We've talked about getting and needing to put more public information on our website for our CLG review. That's kind of still pending, I think. Talk a little more in a more focused way on the local landmark list and our priorities for that. We've had requests or discussions with the Historic Preservation Society about their need and desire for a heritage center here in town. So there's just kind of some big picture topics that I think it would be great. And then is there anything that you are thinking of that you'd like to add to that kind of long list for a retreat? No?
So if I may, Madam Chair, I like the suggestion of waiting until November. We'll have our newly elected people, they won't be in office yet, but they will be certified. And I think it would be a terrific idea to invite those new representatives to the retreat if they wanted to come learn a little bit about what you all are working on.
Yes, that would be awesome. So, we can look at dates, later. We don't have to do that now. And we could actually have our November 8th, our regularly scheduled time, your retreat dates. We don't have to try to find another date on the calendar. Would that work? November 8th? And we would just, make it a longer period of time. Also, we can, to be determined location. Sometimes for retreats, it's nice to be in a different location.
Are we talking about a couple hours, a day? What do you think in retreat? I'm thinking like retreat, 2 days, 3 days.
No.
Steve, can you talk a little bit about a retreat in the context of the city boards and commissions, please?
8 hours?
Usually, the Lodging Tax Advisory Board just had a retreat, and theirs went from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on a Wednesday, I believe, or Tuesday. So it can be anything like that. You can take a morning, an afternoon, the full day, whatever you think would be enough time to discuss everything you'd like to do. And then, of course, we definitely can offer space to create as a good retreat area. There's other options we could explore as well.
Do you have any questions, Shirley, about what a retreat is? It's not like you were going
It's
to...
like a work session?
It is. It's a larger work session.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah. But it's not a work session. It's just
not.
longer, and if it's a commonly used term that the city has used, that's why I'm using the
Yeah.
term retreat.
Okay.
So it's not like an encounter group or
It's
anything.
gonna be
That's
limited.
what I was like, I don't wanna go.
There's gonna be lemonade and cookies, right?
Yes,
Okay.
At a minimum.
yeah.
Yeah. So the date I'm proposing is November the 8th. It's our regular scheduled meeting date in November.
So basically be all day though, or most of it.
For the most part.
So do we
yes.
break from the retreat to have our meeting?
Right, just
No, we
part
would
of
just
it.
skip our meeting that month, I think.
Sure.
Or, I mean, if we had anything pending, if we had an application or something we had to act on, yes, we could do that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
You good with that? Okay, so if you have any other suggestions, if you could please be thinking about what you want to talk about and how that would look. It's certainly not just my vision or thoughts on that, and if we, hopefully Carlos can attend that in person, that would be super if he's able to, and then our additional person, and then newly elected council members and mayor, maybe. All right, moving on to number 7, reports. I thought this was going to be a really long meeting, but we're just kind of moving along. So, chairperson's report. I had perennially asked about having a liaison to city council and understood that we couldn't have a liaison to city council because we were quasi judicial.
You should.
And I did get more of an explanation about that, which helped me a lot. I just wasn't thinking about it this way. In other words, you know, some of the other boards and commissions have a city council liaison who gives a report at the end of city council meetings. Very helpful, I think, a very effective way to communicate, coordinate between boards and commissions like arts and culture, et cetera, et cetera. They will have the city council member give a brief report at the end of the meeting. So I feel like we need to have some kind of coordination or link with city council that's done on a regular basis. I know staff does that, but I think the reasoning that we don't have one because we sometimes make decisions involving property interests, that if we had a city council member as a liaison member, that they would have potentially a conflict of interest. Is that?
I don't see that being an issue. These are public meetings. Any city councilor or the mayor is welcome to attend anyway. They wouldn't be able to participate in the discussion on anything you were talking about property acquisition wise, but it's not inappropriate for them to sit here and listen to the discussion. And it's not like anyone can't just go onto YouTube and watch the meeting anyway. So there's some potential for that to happen.
There's that, yeah, right.
So I think you're fine. And I just texted the mayor and told him that you all are requesting a council liaison, so he's aware of that now.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it would be really helpful to have someone who could be in the loop with what we're up to. So thank you.
Important.
Thank you. Commissioners' reports. Anything?
No.
Miss Planning Administrator, do you have a report?
I know it's not in the budget's not on the agenda, but I wanted to give an update of the invoices thus far. We decided that since Peter Blaney was part of our event and spent so much time there, we went ahead and moved forward and paid him the $500 that was not budgeted, but we received the invoice after the fact.
Wasn't it $750?
It was technical services throughout the day.
Wait,
I think you're getting confused with the video.
right.
The video was a different price,
No.
but we went ahead and moved forward and paid him for his services rendered. And just wanted to give you all that update.
Can we take a pause for a second? Did you have a question about that?
No, I thought, what was the 750?
For
Picket wire.
Picket wire.
Videotaping.
What was the
Videography.
name of it?
Yes, it was
What
Picket
about
Wire,
that?
and he's still working on our videos.
So didn't we have something donated that wasn't donated?
Yes.
Yes.
That
Whatever
was the
happened with that?
$750, I'm thinking.
It's the $250 for the music services, the same vendor, Picket Wire.
I'm talking about from the magazine.
We're talking about Gene's
Oh,
husband.
I haven't, there's no action thus far on Gene's and Steve's invoice.
Oh.
Just wanted to give y'all an update of what has happened thus far. And I know we had 3 invoices on the docket for a payment, and Cheryl felt like, our CFO said, if these services were rendered, she felt like we should go ahead and pay Mr. Blaney.
I didn't know we didn't.
His invoice was turned in after the budget, and I don't know why it wasn't on the budget, but he should have been, I feel like, for IT services. And he was there throughout the entire event, so we did move forward and add that to our current budget for that event.
So do you have any recommendations, or can you tell us how that invoice submitted by Jean is going to be handled, or what's your thought on
There's just a great deal of confusion as to, originally it was considered donated services, and it turned into an invoice. And since I brought that before the HPC and y'all decided it wasn't something at that time you wanted to include in the budget, I did not include it. And that was probably the same thing with Mr. Blaney's invoice at that time, but since Cheryl got a hold of that invoice, she felt like it should be taken care of, so we did.
I mean, I kind of thought we decided that we were going to get more information whether we could pay him or not, because we do want to pay him, but we don't know if we can legally. So that's where I thought it stood.
I thought the first step would be to accept it into the budget, and then we could go forward with whatever we needed to do to get those paid.
Well, I think the only thought that I had, and I think I said this at our last meeting, was that it wasn't really our decision for the HPC, and that it was a procurement contract rule decision, and I don't know that for a fact, but that's my gut on it. And then it was really up to city staff to make that determination. And then if, whatever that decision was, it needed, perhaps it would be a good idea for that to be in writing at this point. If it's not going to be paid, then I think Jean needs to have a response, for sure, because she's asked, but I don't think it's the commission's decision. I think it's the CFO's decision.
You
Is
can
that?
hit on the CFO if you'd like. There's a process for budgeting, and then there's a process for procurement. And you can't follow the procurement guidelines without the budgeting, is how I feel. And so I'm trying to clean up whatever was left over from the event. And I just wanted to inform y'all that was the decision that was made by the CFO to make sure that Mr. Blaney was paid.
Chris, how much was it? I'm sorry.
Mr. Blaney's was $500 for IT services.
Okay.
And then Jean's is, we'd have to go,
$750?
it's her $750 or so for a half-page advertisement.
My recommendation is we just move forward and make those payments. The services were provided, right? And we verified that?
Yes.
And more.
And more.
We spent all day long there.
And that's-
Yeah, and I felt like
But we're
that
That's
was
exactly what we
case
said, but
Blaney.
we wanted an explanation as to why it was donated and then why it
And then why it was invoiced.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not that
That's true.
person
Because
to
we
ask.
all agreed, pay these people, I mean,
I
pay them, they did a service, they did
understand.
a remarkable job.
Okay.
But we still should, you know, get an explanation as to why.
We had conflicts as to what was donated and what was paid.
Why don't we reach out to them and say, what did you intend to donate? And just put the onus on them. And then if you will authorize payment up to the full amount of the 500 and the 750, we'll see what they want to be compensated and then give them a check. Does that sound like a good solution?
Yeah, I think there just needs to be, it needs to be documented.
Okay, and we definitely will. We will.
Just to clarify it.
Okay.
Thank you all for that. Anything else from you, Chris?
That's all I had to update HPC with.
Do we have, I think we have a guest, or what are you? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I.
If you don't mind, Chair, I'll introduce Tara Booth. She works in our Development Services Department. She's outstanding, and we're very fortunate to have her here with the city, and she'll be sitting on meetings and helping on the administrative side, and I'm going to try to attend as many meetings as I possibly can for y'all.
Just to fill in.
She's also awesome at setting mods.
Thank you.
Okay. And Madam Chair, if you don't mind, I had one update today. I had lunch with Neil Paul from Temple Aaron, and they are on the list, hopefully this fall, to be certified as a National Historic Site. So I just wanted to mention that so everyone was aware of that. So super exciting. I am encouraging them to apply for local landmarking as well.
Yeah, that would be great. And,
Yeah.
you know, just to kind of, they did such an amazing job at our outreach event. They had their whole presentation. They brought in, I don't know how many people,
Several
half a dozen or
people from
more.
Grand
From Grand
Junction.
Junction,
Wow.
from Denver. Who's the gentleman who led that effort? What's his, I'm forgetting his
Couldn't
name, I
pull it out.
apologize.
No worries.
But Kip, but I think he worked for the State Historical Society.
Cool.
But they just did a remarkable job, and you know what a gem that building is, and their congregation, and just the devotion and commitment that they have is really amazing. So, okay, any other business for today? All right, so we have a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
I'm not.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you for stopping by.
Of course.